I wonder what young people think about when they look at those things. So, and how it affects them. So when I'm with my godchildren, and they walk in there and they are traditional dancers and they see that representation of their culture, I think at first maybe they laugh, but then deeper down they think, hey, wow, is that what people really think of us? Or is it fake, or is it phony?
Before October, if you go in any large store, they've already pulled out the candy and the costumes because it's all about the commercial aspects of it, not about worshiping ancestors long gone or All Souls Day. It's about selling children costumes, very expensive costumes that they're only going to wear once, most likely.
I feel used. It's really, a lot of people don't understand that, but it's like when you're making money off somebody's culture and then you're misrepresenting it, it's offensive and it's hurtful, because when you think of it more, it's like, wow, these people are really making money off people representing my culture wrongly, and so it's like the only time you care about minorities' cultures is when you want to use this as a costume. It's offensive.
I think that there are some times where people are dressing up as another gender and are doing so as a way to mock. So I think that certainly can be offensive to transgender people. I think it also can be harmful to people who perform drag, whether that be drag kings or drag queens. Performing drag is not just putting on clothing of a different gender and walking out and parading around. That is not what drag is about. It's so much more than that. And certainly for transgender people are not just performing, right, another gender. They are a gender that they say they are, and who they know themselves to be.
There's all these stereotypical images of Native people out there, whether it be during Halloween or whether it's in old westerns or it's in cartoons or whether it's in a textbook. And at some point, young people begin to internalize that, and it can affect them very deeply on what it means, almost like maybe ashamed, at some level embarrassed. So there's all of those different things that they deal with.
When you put that on, you are like appropriating my culture. I can't take this off. I can't take off those stereotypes that you're portraying when you put things on.
People just don't know. I think there are some aspects of cultural appropriation that people really understand. This is a taboo thing, it's a no-no. But there are other aspects where people don't really realize they're doing it, and so I do, I actually kind of think the person may be ignorant, and so I'm not necessarily thinking they're a bad person, but maybe they just don't know.
I mean, I think my first thought is really like, I just roll my eyes, like that's what you wanted to do, that's what you find, because again, it's all a joke, and I feel like sometimes there are Halloween costumes that are intended to be funny. I think that, and maybe the kind of the point of this video is to highlight that when you're dressing up as another culture to be a joke, that is what is offensive.
It doesn't just happen to Native people, it happens to everybody. And if it's not, the representation of the Indian maiden, then it's the sexualization, like when Pocahontas came out, or different things like that, sexualizing women of color. And so there's a broad range, and so I'm kind of all over the place, but these are all the thoughts that go through your head when you see these things in the store or on TV and books, what have you, because when we're misrepresented, it takes a toll long term.
People take and don't really understand that it's really and honoring of our elders, of our ancestors that have been a part of our life. And it's just like, just don't do it. If you see it in another country and you go to a celebration, don't take that shit back home. And if you don't know that you're doing it, just again, research it. All you gotta do is Google it and look up what this costume really means. There's probably tons of people talking about it. You have resources, so don't dress up as a sugar skull because you're making fun of my dead grandpa.
Yeah, so even especially outside of just blackface and stuff like that, there's also other cultures like Indian culture or even Asian cultures and stuff like that. Any culture, even especially Native American, that's one that I see a lot too, that I feel like people are even more comfortable wearing around. But it's when you see someone walk in with that, obviously a lot of time it's hard to confront people on it, but it's definitely kind of cringy because you're you don't know nothing about that culture. And that's why it's disrespectful to wear Native American stuff, if you're not from that culture, anyone who's not from that culture, because you don't know all the history behind it and what they had to go through, or how they made those styles and stuff. So it's you're wearing it in the totally wrong setting. So yeah.
Speak out. It starts by speaking out. When there's enough people speaking out about this issue, because it is an issue, people will hopefully learn from that and know that this is offensive to someone's culture and it does offend somebody out there, and it could get you in a lot of trouble. Some costumes that people wear can offend someone's religion, so it's you're not just affecting culture, you're affecting someone's belief and their religion, their family, their ancestral background.
I think it's important just to understand what cultural appropriation is, to really think about if we're having a theme party, is that potentially going to be offensive? Is it a caricature of somebody's culture? At the end of the day, it's not about what your intent is, it's about how that message is received. So I think for the students who are planning these events, to be really thoughtful about themes, what kind of costumes people are wearing, and really think about the impact of somebody who actually identifies in a culture to see you in something that's not culturally appropriate, relevant, or accurate.
As young people, our students are very serious about this. They're this is not okay, and you guys get upset, and that's okay, and you're supposed to be like that. But then we're also in a place where we educate people, right? So can we do something, because I've done all of it. I've done the in your face, this is not okay, and then I've just educated people. And I find when we put people in spaces where they have an opportunity not to feel like people are calling them racist, right? Because I think a lot of times there are a lot of great people out there who are not educated, and if they had a little bit of education, they'd be like, oh, okay, yeah, that's not okay. We, students that have taken American Indian Studies are I had no idea. So most non-Native people, so even other black and brown folks don't understand Native people, right? So I think we take an opportunity to find solidarity, and then with other groups. And then I think we also take an opportunity to just educate people. This event that you're doing is educating people.
It's really about not being a bystander. So when you see something, you need to make it clear that you're not okay with it. This doesn't mean that you need to, publicly shame someone or go out of your way, or at least that's not my approach. I don't think that it's, seeing someone who's culturally appropriating and going out of your way to make sure that that person feels like garbage. For example, if I see someone in blackface, I'm absolutely addressing it to that person, no questions asked, and I'm letting them know that they're garbage. I'm just letting them know that, right? It's inappropriate, we know that, you know better. There's no way that you could not have gotten that message at some point in your life, that you should not be doing blackface. Silence, unfortunately, oftentimes will communicate acceptance. right? So when Eastern's community is quiet when they see something that is inappropriate or that otherwise harms another community member, what we're saying as a community is that's okay. And it's time that we step up our game. It's 2019. Halloween costumes at this point should not be about making fun of another culture, and Eastern has a vital role. We all have a vital role in communicating that message when we see it in that moment.
Yeah, just educate yourself. If you don't know if you're doing something right or wrong, just ask. It's better than, doing something wrong and then getting called out for it. Yeah, educate yourself.
The only thing I can say is that there has been a lot of change. Like you don't see change until 10, 12 years down the road. Or maybe you don't even see it in my lifetime. But I can say that it's the discussions and being able to share culture is a lot different than it was when I was a kid. And that's partly due to the young people today. So continue to push and continue to share culture, continue to embrace diversity and to embrace culture, because that's ultimately what's going to help build a better community, better connection. If you don't, then you're really kind of practicing disconnect, and that's not going to be helpful for anybody. So there has been a lot of change, and I would probably just say keep going.
You don't know what's going on in that culture. You just kind of put on and think it's cool. But it's like, the thing is that people from that culture look at you and they know, like, you're not really showing respect. You're not dressing up to show respect because it's not like in the same setting or anything. Or you don't know if like that character from those Disney movies, like if the costume they have is like, those are like maybe some clothes that are supposed to resemble the traditional clothes that come from that culture, and then you put it on and you're just making it kind of lose value from what it came from. And that's why I feel like cultural appropriation kind of minimizes culture and kind of, in a way, disrespects it.
Research, don't be dumb, and also have fun but be conscious while you're having that fun.
I'll build onto that. Be aware of who's around you and what you're putting into your body. You only have one body, so yeah. And then don't talk about anything you don't understand or know. Like you said, do research.
If you have to ask yourself if your costume is appropriate, I can already tell you it's not appropriate.
My ethnicity is Northern Piikani, part of the Blackfoot Confederacy in Alberta, Canada.
I'm African American. My family has been on this continent for as far as I can trace, 5 generations with me.
My culture, my citizenship, my identity is a blended Black and Indian.
My culture is queer, and my culture is Latinx.
My ethnicity is Black.
I'm Gracia Alzaver, and I'm Sudanese, Lebanese, and Nubian from the country of South Sudan.
My ethnicity is Nuer of the South Sudanese country.
My culture is Mexican American.
My culture is Mexican.
I'm Kim Davis. I'm the Senior Director for Diversity and Inclusion at Eastern Washington University. I share multiple identities, including female, Mexican American, Caucasian. I have a disability.
My name's Michael Davis. I'm Black, white, and Asian, and my culture is not your costume.
I just want to remind you that my culture is not your costume.
My culture is not your costume.
Don't appropriate my culture.
My culture is not your costume.
My culture is not a costume.
And my culture is not your costume.
And my culture is not a costume.
And neither one of my cultures is a costume.
And definitely, I am not your costume.